In this video, we're going to practice factoring trinomials. So we just learned what factoring means. Now we're going to practice doing several examples here. So as I factor each of these trinomials, we'll start with number one. I know that each of these is going to turn into the product of two binomial factors. So I'm going to go ahead and start by putting a pair of parentheses down for number one. Because x squared is the first term in my trinomial, I know that my binomial factors both need to start with x. So as I figure out the second term in each binomial factor, then I focus on the final number. I need factors of 40, and remember they need to add up to the middle number, which in this case is 13. So factors of 40 that add to 13. Now the more you do this, the better you'll get at it. At first, if you're not sure with factors, it doesn't hurt to just write out a factor tree and see what happens. So 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 4 times 10, and 5 times 8. There will be all the factors of 40. And I'm looking for the pair that adds up to 13. Well, no, yes. Looks like 5 and 8 are the winners. So x plus 5 is one of my binomial factors, and x plus 8 is another one. There we go. And you can always check your answer by foiling the expression you come up with. So if I just mentally foil this, x times x is x squared. 8x plus 5x is 13x, and 5 times 8 is 40. Looks good. Let's try another one. Number two, x squared minus 8x plus 12. Again, I'll start with my pair of parentheses to represent my two binomial factors. X squared is what we begin with, so each binomial must have an x to begin it. Now we need factors of 12 that add up to negative 8 this time. Now one thing to keep in mind is if you've got a positive number here, a positive number could be the product of two positive numbers or two negative numbers. In this case, I'm going to need the negative factors because the sum happens to be a negative number here. So if I were to write out the factors of 12, like I did for 40, I would put the negative versions of each, negative 1 and negative 12. Again, those would multiply together to become positive 12, but they could add up to a negative number, which we need. Next on the list would be negative 2 and negative 6, and then negative 3 and negative 4. Well, again, once you find the pair, you can stop. Negative 2 and negative 6 add up to negative 8. That's the pair we need. So x minus 2 times x minus 6. Quick FOIL, x squared, negative 6x minus 2x is negative 8x. Negative 2 and negative 6 make positive 12. Keep going. Next one. X squared plus 3x minus 10. Pair of parentheses. X at the beginning of each. Factors of negative 10 that add up to positive 3. Now this time, my final number is negative. So a negative product comes from taking a positive number times a negative number. So if I were to look for the factors, I'll go up for the sake of space. I could be looking at negative 10 times positive 1, or maybe positive 2 times negative 5. You get the idea. The one trick is that if the middle term is positive, the bigger factor is going to be the positive one. So 2 and negative 5 added together is negative 3. Well, it doesn't match the sign. But if I were to change that around and make it negative 2 and positive 5, all of a sudden I have a sum of 3 and a product of negative 10. That must be the right answer. So x minus 2 times x plus 5. Now, as you continue to get better at this, they'll start to get a little bit easier. So number 4, I need an x and an x. Factors of negative 27 that add up to 6. Well, I'm looking at probably 9 and 3. And if I want this to be positive, I'm going to need to make this positive 9 and negative 3. Quick FOIL to check. X squared minus 3x plus 9x is positive 6x. Negative 27 is the last term. Number 5, the last one we'll do together here that'll work. We've got x and x. Factors of negative 6 that add up to negative 5. I usually put this one in there because negative 6, you might automatically think of it as negative 3 and negative 2. Something that people forget is you can also use negative 1 and 6 or something like that to add up to these. So if I were to come up with negative 6, my brain might say to me, oh, 3 and 2 add up to negative 5, right? Okay, negative 3 and negative 2. However, negative 3 times negative 2 would be positive 6. This one's tricky. Remember, if it's negative product, one of these has to be positive. Negative 3 and 2 are not going to work. But don't forget about the number itself and 1 as a factor. Negative 6 times 1 is negative 6. negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. That's the right pair here. A little brain teaser that often causes errors. Now, the final one, x squared minus 16x plus 51. Every now and then we'll be forced to deal with a trinomial that maybe can't be factored. 51 has its factors. Let's see. 3 goes into 51. Let's see how many times. Well, 3 times 10 is 30, right? 3 times 20 is 60. Okay, we'll subtract 9, so it must be 17. And again, you can always type it in your calculator, but just kind of showing the thought process if you're trying to do these in your head. 3 and 17, well, I need a negative number here, so maybe it's negative 3 and negative 17. But either way, these don't add up to negative 16. In fact, and the only other factors 51 are 1 and 51. So this one can't be factored. It is, think of it as a prime polynomial. It is what it is. It's going to go. And that'll do for a little bit of practice with factoring.